Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, inshallah, we are going to complete our talk about the unemployment and the different types of unemployment and inflation. As you know that in the last class, we learned how to calculate the unemployment rate, the employment rate, the labor force, as well as the labor force participation rate, right? So let's start with, or begin with, the different types of unemployment. As I mentioned that we will focus on 3 types of unemployment. Number 1 is the frictional unemployment. Number 2, the structural employment, and the last type is cyclical unemployment. For the frictional employment, means or occurs when the worker wants to leave his work and to get another job or a better job. So if he left his work or his job, he will wait for a few weeks to find another job or the better job, right? So he has, during this period or this few weeks, and these few weeks, he has to improve his skills to match the new, or to meet the requirements for the new job, right? This period is called the frictional unemployment. So the frictional unemployment is not bad for the economy, because when he wants to shift his work from a job to another, he wants to improve his, or the productivity would increase, and as I mentioned, he wants to get a better job. So, and the period should be short, right? Let's go to the structural unemployment, which called البطالة الهيكلية. The structural employment is one of the biggest problems in the economy, which occurs when, or as you see in the definition, the structural unemployment is a portion of the unemployment that is due to change in the structure of the economy that result in a significant loss of jobs in certain industries. Suppose that an economy wants to change, or suppose that we have a structural change in the economy from the agriculture to industry. قطاع عندنا الدولة والبلد بدأت تتغير، بتتحول من التركيز على القطاع الزراعي لقطاع صناعي. So in this case we have a structural change in the economy. So all the farmers or the people who work in the agricultural sector will lose their jobs, right? Here's the idea. وبالتالي هي مشكلة كبيرة إنه إذا الستراكشر تبع الإيكونومي it has been changed. In this case, all the people who works in this sector will lose their job, and it will prolong for a deep or for a long term, or for a long period, right? تمام? Because it needs long term to match the new requirements for the new sector, or the changes, the structural changes in the economy. تمام? Is it clear or not? Okay, let's go to the last type of unemployment, which is the cyclical unemployment. As you know, that in the last class, we discussed as you know, what's this? This is the business cycle, yes. And during the business cycle, we have a recession from peak to trough. We have a what? A declining in output, or a recession, or a contraction. During this period, the unemployment rate would what? Would increase. The unemployment occurs during this period, or during a recession period. It's called a cyclical unemployment. بطالة دورية, because it happens here and then here, right? So it's called what? The cyclical unemployment, right? So let's go, sorry? Yes. Yes, during this period, we have a high unemployment rate. So as you see, the cyclical unemployment is the increase in unemployment that occurs during recessions and depressions, right? And during this period, the GDP or the gross, the aggregate output would what? Would decline, right? Okay. The natural rate of unemployment in general. We cannot imagine that the unemployment rate in any country would reach to the zero. It's impossible in any country all over the world to find that the unemployment rate is zero. So we have a natural rate of unemployment between 4 to 6%. It's a normal in this case. So what is the natural rate of unemployment? The natural rate of unemployment equals the summation of fractional and the structural unemployment in the economy. هلا شو هذا المعدل البطالة الطبيعي هذا equals the fractional unemployment plus the structural unemployment in the economy. So suppose that the structural unemployment equals 2%. So the structural unemployment and the fractional unemployment equals 4%. Calculate the natural rate of unemployment. المعدل الطبيعي للبطالة في الهاي equals the summation 2% plus 4% equals 6%. This is the natural rate of unemployment. So let's come back to the definition. As you see, the natural rate of unemployment is the unemployment that occurs as a normal part of the functional of the economy, and sometimes taken as the summation of the fractional unemployment as the structural unemployment. مجموع بطالة احتكاكية زائد بطالة هيكلية بيعطينا شو؟ The natural rate of unemployment. And as you see, it's between 4 and 6%. Right? Okay. The benefits of recession. As you know, that during the recession period, we have what? High unemployment rate, right? And we have the outputs high unemployment rate, and the output is declined. But during the recession, as you know, there is low demand for the products. So if we have a little demand or a low demand for the products, the prices would what? Would decline. So during the recession, so the recession is not always bad, because sometimes during the recession the prices would what? Decline. So it's easy for the consumer, it will increase the purchasing power for the consumers to write more and more goods and services, right? So the recession, the idea here is the recession is not always bad. Yes, we agree that during the recession we have high unemployment rate, we have the aggregate output to decline, and there is a small or low demand for labor, but we have some benefits from the recession, which is that the prices during the recession, the prices of different goods and services would decline. What else? The imports would decline, because we have already an overproduction of goods, and the consumers cannot, yes, so they can't buy products from outside. So in this case, it leads to improve the nation, the balance of payments, لو ميزان المدفوعات, right? Yes.
Increasing in prices, but not increasing in demand.
In demand for what?
For products, but prices
goes up. The prices go up, and the demand for what? The demand for the products increasing. Okay, it's logical, because increasing the prices, for sure the demand for the products will be low.
The prices increasing, high increases.
Okay.
But the demand not increases.
Okay, so, here we're talking about the different types of inflation. As you know, most of the products enter the Gaza Strip are imported through the tunnels, through across checkpoints or across, right? So it's called importing inflation or imported inflation. هو أصلا تضخم مستورد. So when we talk about or the statistics shows that more than 97 of out of our trade, more than 97 out of our trade with Israel. So if we imported goods and services, if we imported goods and services from Israel, for sure, if the prices in Israel increase, in this case, we will, or the inflation will be transferred to the Gaza, for sure, direct. So it's called imported inflation. هذا تضخم مستورد جايبينه معنا من برا. Yes. Exactly. Other definitions or other terms in the economic, I think that part of these terms have been discussed in the chapter 1. The inflation. As you know, that the inflation is the increasing in the overall price levels. So, if the price of some goods and services or one good and service in the economy increased, we can't say that we have an inflation rate, inflation problem, right? But the inflation is the increasing in the overall price levels for all goods and services in the economy. In this case, we can say that we have an inflation phenomenon, right? Okay? What about the deflation? Deflation is a decreasing in the overall price levels in the economy. And the last thing is the sustained inflation. Sustained means mustamir, which is the inflation that continues over a significant period of time. Right? I think it's not new. Okay, let's go to one of the complex topics in the macroeconomics, which is the price index. The price index is or are used to measure the overall price levels from year to year, or the inflation rate from year to year. We have three main types of the price index. Number one is the GDP price index, or the GDP deflator. And the second is the consumer price index. And the last one is the producer price index. Price index means رقم القياس الأسعار. Okay? As you know that in the last class we discussed the GDP deflator and how could we calculate it, or how could we calculate the GDP deflator. The GDP deflator measures the change in the prices, or the overall price levels from year to year by using what? The locally produced goods. Right? So it considers the all produced goods in the economy. It considers the prices of all produced goods and services in the economy, which have been produced locally. So when we measure, it measures the changes in the overall price levels for what? For the locally produced goods. But what about the consumer price index? The consumer price index, it's related to the consumed goods by the consumer. So it measures what? It measures the prices, or the change in the overall price levels for the consumed or the purchased products. Right? And it takes many bundles, or the different bundles of goods and services, and measure the prices. So suppose that, to understand the concept of the consumer price index, suppose, or the economists, as I mentioned, the economists used the prices of the purchased products or goods and services, whether it was produced locally or imported from the outside the country, right? So, and they take different bundles of goods. So suppose they take food, clothing, transportation, telecommunication, and they measure the prices of these bundles throughout the years, 2009, 2010, 2011, and so on. Right? So suppose, so they measure the prices, or they calculate the prices of these bundles of goods throughout the years. But it has some problems. These problems are: it ignores, it does not consider all the goods and services in the economy. They focus on what? Only, yes, exactly, a bundle of goods, and they focus on only the purchased products, or the consumed products. So they ignored the investment products, or the investment, or the prices of machines, prices. So they focus on the consumed products, and they don't consider the prices of all goods. Sometimes we have, and they have a problem, which is sometimes when if they take 5 types of clothing and they measure the prices or the changes in the prices over the years, part of these types of clothing might be outdated. Or suppose that we are talking about the TVs. You know the white and white-black TVs. It has become outdated. So if we measure the prices of the white-black white-black TVs in 1973, it was available, right? But now it has updated. No one used the black and white TVs, but according to the consumer price index, it will be available for measuring the prices of different bundles of goods. عمليا الأسعار بخلوها، يعني هاي سلعة بطلت تستخدم لكن بتضلها في القياسات عندهم، في قياسات الكونسيومر برايس index, right? Okay, so let's go to the concepts and information about the consumer price index. As you see, or the price index are used to measure the overall price levels. The price index that pertain to all goods and services in the economy is the GDP price index, which means the GDP price index measures the prices of all goods and services produced in the economy, right? Let's go to the consumer price index. As you see, CPI is the consumer price index, is a price index computed each month by the period of labor statistics using a bundle that is made to represent the market basket. Market basket means سلة المستهلك أو السلة اللي هي different bundles. تمام. What else? Purchased monthly. So here we're talking about the purchased products, whether it was purchased from inside or outside the country. حزم ثابتة وبطبقها على السنين كلها. There is no change in the different types. يمكن بعد after 10 years, after 20 years بيغيروا اللي هو الاشي اللي بيحتويها كل بندل وبيقيسوا عليها. تمام. So as you see, the consumer price index market basket shows how a typical consumer divides his or her money among various goods and services. As you see, this is a diagram illustrates the purchases of a consumer, a typical consumer. As you see, he spends 4.3 on 5.8 for on education and communication. As you see, recreation, medical care, and so on. Right? Okay. As I mentioned, that we have another term, which is the producer price index. The producer price index measures the price change for the products at all stages. اللي هم ايش؟ in the production process. The three main categories are finished goods, intermediate material, and accrued material. مواد الخام. بيجي بيعمل تسعيرة للأسعار للfinished goods, للintermediate material, and the accrued material in each year, and do a and then they can do a comparison between the price, the changes in the overall price levels for or at each stage. Right? Okay. What about the costs of inflation, or the consequences, the bad consequences or the negative consequences of inflation? Suppose to understand the negative consequences and effects of inflation, suppose that you receive or you are granted a monthly salary of $1,000. Suppose that you are a consumer, or an employee, and you are granted a salary of $1,000. If the price is increased, what would happen? If you receive the same income or a fixed income, in this case, the purchasing power or your purchasing power would what? Decline. Exactly, would decline. So you would be hurt. صح؟ حتتضرر. إذا مين بتضرر من الانفليشن؟ اللي yes, the employee who receives what? A fixed income. تمام؟ واحد بياخد دخل ثابت، يبقى معنى انه الراتب تبعه مش مربوط بجدول غلاء المعيشة. هذا بيتضرر. So in this case, if the nominal income, this is the nominal income, الدخل الاسمي. But if the price is increased, the real income would what? Would decline, right? So if he receives a $1,000 as a nominal income, if the price is increased, or increasing the prices leads to what? To declining the purchasing power of this employee, and real income would what? This leads to a reduction of real income. What else? Who will hurt from and who will benefit from inflation? Suppose that the producers. Okay, we are coming to discuss this point, but I would like to talk about the lenders and borrowers. Suppose today I give or I lend. Suppose today that I lend Anas 1,000 shekel, right? Today I lend Anas 1,000 shekel. Today, this is today. I'm the lender, right? Today, the $1,000 or the 1,000 shekel can purchase كيس الطحين قديش حقه؟ Okay, 100 shekel, okay? So in this case, I can buy, suppose that the price per sack of flour, the price per sack of flour is 100 shekels. In this case, I can buy 110 sacks of flour, right? after inflation. Suppose I lent him for 2 years, for the coming 2 years. As you know, in general, the price is increased, right? In general, the overall price levels increase. After 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, he wants to give me this amount. He decided as a borrower to give me the money 1,000 shekels. But the price is per se. Suppose it has become, or what will be 150 shekels. So as you see, the price is increased. Exactly. So in this case, the value of money declined as a result or due to the increasing the overall price levels, or as a result of increasing inflation rate. So this leads to decreasing the purchasing power of money. So in this case, I can buy how much? 1,000 shekel over 150 equals how much? 6.2. 5.2. Okay. This is, so in this case, the borrower or the lender ايش ماله؟ خسر. صح؟ بس مين اللي استفاد؟ Who benefits? Or who benefits? The borrower. The borrower. Okay, the borrower. Talking about the borrower. تمام. So the debtors will benefit from the inflation, and the creditors or the lender would would face a problem because the purchasing power of money would decline. إذا مين استفاد؟ اللندر البورور واللي تضرر hurt مين هو؟ اللندر. تمام؟ طيب let's go to the real interest rate. The real interest rate. Suppose that you have a $1,000. $1,000. And you deposit or decided to put it in the bank, to deposit it in the bank. With interest rate of 7%. البنك قال لك بدي أعطيك فائدة قديش؟ 7% as interest rate for a 1 year. For 1 year. Right? So by the end of this year, you will receive how much? If you would like to withdraw this the amount, 1,770. Okay, 1,000. مظبوط. Right? This is what? This is the nominal interest rate. Right? Suppose during this year, the inflation or the price is increased by the same percentage. 7%. This is the inflation rate. شو استفدت أنا؟ Nothing. صح؟ لأنه الألف actually the real interest rate equals 0. حقيقة ما استفدتش ولا حاجة. So the real interest rate equals the nominal interest rate minus inflation rate. So as you see, the real interest rate equals the nominal interest rate minus inflation rate. But if the price, sorry? Exactly. Okay, but
more or increase in prices, you lose.
Exactly. Okay, but here we're talking about all of other factors are constant or ceteris paribus. Now we are talking about the inflation rate or the prices increased by 7%. The nominal interest rate is 7%. So with your gain or the actual or the real interest rate would be 0. But if the interest rate or the inflation rate increased by 5%, how much is the real interest rate that you receive from the bank? 7% minus 5% equals 2%. Right? صح? طيب, suppose the bank decided to give you 7% and the inflation rate is 10% during this year. There is a loss by 3%. صح؟ احنا بنحكي we are talking about ceteris paribus means انه كل العوامل الاخرى ثابتة على حالها. We are talking about the value of currencies is constant and we have interest rate by 7%.